So I'm sitting here this morning reflecting what my plan of attack, I got my coffee, what my plan of attack is going to be next. You see I've got my studies over on the side that I've done, color references, and let me break this down a little bit for you, some of the composition that I had in mind. First of all, it's never a good idea to divide your painting in half and come up, say, to that half and stop where you got equal sides. No two intervals should be the same. Same thing with the horizon line. I've got it drop below the center. You don't want it right in the center. Basically, what that's telling the viewer is if I have an equal part of top, equal part of bottom, it says that as the artist, I was no more interested in one or the other. So to the viewer, why should they be? Move on, next painting. So what I want to do is by dropping this here below the center line, I basically brought emphasis to the upper portion, saying this is what I'm, as an artist, I'm interested in. You should be too. So those are some compositional things that I've done. Now you notice I got kind of a diagonal that comes this way. I got curved lines of the ruts of the tires coming this way, verticals going up, and I have one cloud, and I slanted it down by design. It took me a while playing with that cloud, but by design I have it slanted down to work as an eye path to kind of help redirect the eye and keep the eye within the painting. All kind of work together. Let's see what else. Some things I'm going to have to work on. Okay, I'm going to want to some of these harsh edges here and here. I'm going to want to soften or break those up. Introduce maybe some pigment to suggest sky holes coming through. Some of the sharper contrasts, I'm going to soften that a little bit. Because the light is coming over, we have to assume there's a mass of trees here, and in this spot there was, which is casting shadow across the scene we're looking at. But the shadow is coming down at an angle, and it's allowing the upper portions to be struck by the low sun setting, just like what's happening back in here. So I'm going to want to come up, I think, in this area, after studying it, I'm going to want to introduce a little bit more of the oranges and the reds. See, look at that edge right there. That bothers me a little bit, so I got to fix that. So I want that to pop a little bit more and make it sound like we're dealing with sunlight, okay? A couple other things. I'll tone this tree down a little bit, introduce some reflected and bounced light and color into the tree. One thing we learned from plein air painting, unfortunately with photography through lens metering, it favors the light and it takes shadows and it sucks the color out of them and makes them pure dark. If you paint just from photographs, you're likely to be a tonalist, just inherently by nature. Although if you paint outdoors enough and really see what light does, you can train yourself to work with photographs. But in this case, what I'm going to do is there's reflected light and bounce light. And you can see this tree here is cooler in temperature until it reaches up here, and then it gets warm from the sun. Now right now I've got to introduce some reflected light and shadows into that tree, tone that down a little bit. Otherwise it appears like things are working for me. This is all nitpick refinements that we're talking about here now. So if there's anything else, I'll probably finish, even though this is in shadow, I'll probably finish with some thicker impastos just to bring, say, maybe a few pine branches towards the viewer a little bit. But again, I have to be careful that I don't suggest more detail that I got to go back into here. This is all in shadow, so it doesn't require a ton of detail. It only has to work back here. So looking back in the distance here, this was kind of fun. You can see the impasto work. This is all relatively new for me in the past maybe 8, 9, 10 years. From the years as a wildlife artist, I used to put detail upon detail, allowing brushwork and impasto and things to happen so that it works back here and not necessarily 6 inches from the painting. I did the same thing in the cloud. I have thinner passages in here, impasto on the edges to reflect the strong sunlight. But what's important is what happens back here. So, all right. Oh, one other thing. No two intervals the same. Too much sameness here. These are supposed to be ruts from truck tires in the mud, the old logging roads or dirt roads that are out there. Moisture that collects, but there's just too many harsh edges and it's too much the same. So the trick here is it has to appear like truck ruts, but I have to break it up so it's not just so benign and hard edge. So I'll be playing with that a little bit and trying to break that up. So those are some of my thoughts. Some people say, well, geez, that looks like it's finished. But this is the part as an artist where you have to be critical and really look at things and decide, what really makes this painting finished. As an alla prima, typically my brushstroke, I don't want one more brushstroke than necessary is overkill, one less and it's not finished. So some of this has to be broken up, maybe some branches introduced, get some variation. So all those things are important. All right, hopefully you found that of interest, beneficial. So post this on my Facebook page, mix up some paint, and get going.